Fast forward, she ended up leaving the facility, and I remember what happened in the meeting with her and the CNO was that, like, she told the CNO, well, I guess...
Well, I just wanted to let you know that I'm leaving, so now I don't have to kiss your ass.
I think he just kind of, like, thought I was gonna be like, oh, congratulations, like, you're gonna do great, good luck with everything, like, it was so nice to meet you. But, bitch, I don't wish you good luck. I really don't care about you. This person has a problem with you, and keep your eyes peeled, bitch.
Well, you charted it, like, why did you do that? You know, really bad nursing. That's awful.
So I remember one day where this chick literally took the box because she didn't like the leader of the nurse practice council. She took the box and, like, threw it on the floor. And I was like... Welcome back to my channel. It's George again, your favorite registered nurse, and I'm here to talk about nurse bullying. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic is because I was on YouTube and, like, watching my YouTubers, and I went on my, like, home suggestion recommended section, and I was, like, seeing a lot of nurses talking about nurse bullying. And I was like, you know what? We've all been there. If you are a nurse and you haven't experienced it, then, like, you're lucky. But we've all been there, and I've been a nurse for about 10 years now, and I've seen nurse bullying more than I've experienced it. I just wanted to put my 2 cents on nurse bullying, how I've experienced it, how I've seen it, and if you want to be a nurse, you're gonna have to get used to this because it's not gonna change. Like, it just is what it is. It's really sad, but some people don't grow out of their high school era, and the hospitals I've worked with, there is a hierarchy just like high school, so be prepared. So if you're new to this channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I talk a lot about nursing, and I do a lot of, like, travel vlogs, fashion vlogs, reviews, and stuff like that. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is George, and today we're gonna talk about bullying. So, nurse bullying. First of all, let's, like, really define what bullying is. If I Google what is bullying, I get this page, and on Promote Prevent, their bullying definition is: bullying is a repeated aggressive behavior where one person or group of people in a position of power deliberately intimidates, abuses, or coerces an individual with the intention to hurt that person physically or emotionally. As I said, I've seen my fair share of bullying. I'm a very, like, easygoing person. Like, I get along with everyone. I am, I would say, kind of like a social butterfly. I'm a Libra, honey. Like, I'm a freaking scale. Like, I know how to adapt. That's just, like, in my core, honey. Like, why do you think Kim Kardashian basically gets along with everyone? Because she's a freaking Libra. Like... But that's not to say that I haven't encountered a bitch who was, like, slick in the mouth and I had to, like, say something back, you know? Like,
I will come for them.
I pick my battles. In my mindset, I'm like, is this really gonna affect me? Like, is it really worth it at the end of the day? People should be nice to everyone because you don't know what they're internally going through. That's how my philosophy is. Like, it takes more energy to be evil and mean to someone, you know? So... Okay, so there was, like, this one nurse at one of the hospitals I worked at, and no one liked her. Like, she was very, like, power-driven, like, very fake, very phony, not real. Just, like, someone you didn't really want to confide in. She was just, like, power-hungry. So she didn't get along with one of the nurse practice council leaders. And so the nurse practice council leader had this box. It was in the nurses station, and basically you would write suggestions or, like, things we can do to better the mood or better the camaraderie, or how to just make the hospital or our unit, like, just, you know, better in general. So you would write it anonymously, put it in the box, whatever. So I remember one day where this chick literally took the box because she didn't like the leader of the nurse practice council. She took the box and, like, threw it on the floor. And I was like...
Pooja, what is this behavior?
I'm sorry, I kicked it by mistake.
You can't kick it by mistake.
Then pick it up if it bothers
no,
you.
No, you will pick it up.
What is going on, you know? Like, this is, like, my, like, one of my first jobs out of nursing school. Like, I just, like, didn't expect that because, like, I've never seen behavior like that from, like, adults. Like, so I just, like, I was, like, flabbergasted. I was like, what did I sign up for, you know? Like, now being 10 years as a nurse, like I've seen it all. Like I've seen techs and nurses go at it. There was one time like a nurse threw like milk and cereal at a tech and they were going at it. So like I've seen it all. So like now like I know better. Like I don't put anything past anyone, but like as a young nurse who just like graduated like that, I was like, what's going on here? Let's call her Becky, okay? Let's call her Becky. Becky was a supervisor. So anyway, that was a red flag. So another red flag was the hospital that I used to work at, they would get you like a birthday cake or like food when it was your birthday, and like we'd all go to like the fishbowl and like say happy birthday to the person. So this one time, it was one of my coworkers' birthdays and like everyone loves her. So the CNO and Becky went to go get a cake for her at the local supermarket, you know, to say happy birthday. End of the day comes. Becky thought it was a good idea to steal her birthday cake and take it home. I was like, who freaking does that? Now that I've been a nurse for 10 years, I see a lot of people stealing, and like I'll go into the break room and like during lunch and people are like, someone ate my lunch. Like you don't know how many times like people like eat other people's lunch in the break room. I'm like, who freaking does that? Like who were you raised by? There's a lot of reasons why Becky was not to be trusted. Another one was that she was originally a floor nurse, but then she became a supervisor, and when she got to be a supervisor, honey, she was just like writing people up for like the dumbest things, like just really awful things, whether they were like kind of like tardy a few minutes or just like anything. Like she went on a power trip once she became supervisor. I mean, she obviously never wrote me up. I mean, I'm like the model nurse, but like we were chill, like we weren't friends or anything, but like I kept her arms length, you know what I mean? Anyway, she ended up meeting with management because people were complaining that like they were getting written up for no reason. And it was like, they basically told her like, look, like you have to step down as supervisor or you're gonna get fired. So basically she spun it like,
oh yeah, like I stepped down from supervisor because XYZ.
And it was like everyone looked at each other like we knew the situation. Like we knew that they gave you an ultimatum, girl. Fast forward, she ended up leaving the facility, and I remember what happened in the meeting with her and the CNO was that like she told the CNO, well, I just wanted to let you know that I'm leaving, so now I don't have to kiss your ass. And I was like, damn, like from the very end, she really was trying to be that bitch, but she really wasn't. And I was like, she was bold. My very first encounter with like, not nurse bullying, but like just unprofessionalism was during my practicum. So, you know the TikTok where it's like, all mean girls grow up to be registered nurses?
Wow, I need a minute to think about this.
That was kind of like the vibe my practicum instructor was. So the very first time I met her, I brought her Starbucks. She didn't expect that, honey. Like she was like floored. She was like very happy. So I was like, okay, great. Like we're like on the same page. Like this is gonna be a really fun experience, whatever. Red flags started to pop up as my practicum like dragged on. If you're not a nurse, practicum is basically when you just have your final at the end, but like the practicum portion is when you follow a nurse and their schedule, like a real nurse. So I got paired up with this chick, let's call her Gloria. Gloria was very young. I would say late 20s, early 30s, like super young. She's like one of those girls with the figs, with the ponytail. Like she's gonna be traveling. She's probably a travel nurse right now. She's killing it. Like she's like one of those young nurses. So I got paired up with her. We were on PCU. So the first one was when respiratory therapy, we had a respiratory patient who like had a trach, wasn't doing that great. I remember like kind of like, not really the patient you would want to have. You have to suction them, blah, blah, blah. Like very much a patient who like got out of ICU way too early, but you know, like, you know how the hospitals are. We gotta get the beds moving out of ER. First red flag was when she basically charted that she gave a neb treatment and she didn't give it. So I was like with her and I like, you know, I'm just like following along. I don't know what's going on. Respiratory therapist comes up and he's like,
so like, did you give the breathing treatment?
And she was like,
Yeah, like I haven't gotten to do that yet.
And then the respiratory therapist was like,
well, you charted that it was done.
and the respiratory therapist is supposed to do their jobs, but to do the nebulizers, not the nurse. So she was like,
yeah, like I just haven't gotten to it yet.
And I think that she basically wanted that off her screen because like the managers, like they check to make sure you don't have late meds. They don't want to see any red meds on your MAR. So I think she just wanted to take that off. But he was like,
well, you charted it, like why did you do that? You know, really bad nursing. That's awful.
blah, blah, blah. And she was like,
well, I'm gonna do it soon. I'm just like, I just didn't have time.
and like she was just like being very like smiley and giggly and bubbly and whatever. So respiratory leaves. He's obviously pissed and he's like,
really great nursing judgment. Really great. Good job for you.
and like she was like, he leaves and she's like,
God, respiratory therapist, like,
she said something like,
she was like, oh, respiratory therapist, like, you just graduate from a technical school, like, calm down, like, you're not doing anything that great.
she said something like,
Respiratory therapists, like, are, like, graduates of technical schools, like, they're not really, like, medical professionals.
kind of thing. And I was like, girl, like that's not like something you want to say, because I feel like nurses already get a lot of shit from doctors, from families. Like people treat nurses like we're the scum on their shoe, you know what I mean? So it's like, why are you like putting down other staff members? We're supposed to be a team here, you know? Like it was just giving like mean girl vibes. And then she also, like this one day she was like, at the end of the day we were leaving, and then another red flag, she was like,
oh, don't forget to bring Starbucks.
I was like, bitch, like, I bought you coffee, just, like, be nice. Like, don't expect it. I'm like, wow, okay, bitch. Like, gross. Like, someone I don't want to be was my Practicum instructor. I was, like, very disappointed at the end of it all. She was really disappointing. And I even remember texting her, like, hey, can I put you down as my references? Like, I'm finding my new first job. Like, I'm excited, blah, blah, blah. And she, like, never responded. And I was like, wow. Like, really disappointing. So my first job out of nursing school, long-term care. Didn't want to work at the hospital yet. I kind of just wanted to get my feet wet. There was one, like, physician who was very, like, he thought very highly of himself. Like, I don't know how else to put it, but that was, like, the vibe I got. So he was one of those people who like knows 2 languages. Like I know 2 languages. Okay, fine. I'm bilingual. I get it. Whatever. So whenever he saw someone who like spoke his language, like he would just speak his own language, which is fine. Like I do it all the time. Like, you know, it's just easier and it's good practice for me. So this medical doctor, because I was gonna say medical professional, but like how you're acting is not professional, bitch. So why would I even stress that word professional? You're just whatever. So this doctor, I remember being at the nurse's station and I felt like he was talking about me to another doctor. So I listened closely. I even like saw them talking. So he was talking to another doctor and he was saying something like blah, 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 suéter negro, which I took Spanish for 6 years. So like my Spanish is like not that great anymore because I basically studied to get the grade, not to learn it. But it's like, I know that means black sweater. So I always wear my black sweater, a black hoodie from North Face, because hospitals, nursing homes, like any facility, it's cold. Because at the end of the day, it's cold temperatures, 59, 60, decreases microorganisms in the air and keeps things a little more sterile and a little more clean. So I was like, I know he's talking about me, obviously. And I was like, wow, like, okay, this is where we're going right now. So I was just like flabbergasted because it's like, who does that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm right there. I know you know I'm right there. And like, if you're gonna be that like shady, then like at least like do it when I'm not in the nurse's station. You know what I mean? So I just like, that was like my first inclining that like not everyone's gonna like you. I honestly know that the reason why is because I'm gay. Some people will just not like you for things like that, and you just have to get a thick skin. And I've learned that over the years that like that's something that I'm just gonna have to deal with, especially geographically where I'm located. Karma got him at the end because like, so like I was a new nurse and I didn't know Looking back at it, like, I'm really dumb for doing this, but like, I gave one of the family members his cell phone number, because I don't know, I just like, in my head, I was like, okay, like, they have questions, like, let me just give the family member, like, his personal cell phone number, because he, like, left it at the nurse's station. But now that I know, like, it was supposed to be just for the nurses to call for questions or text him, but, you know what? Do I feel bad that I did that? No, not really anymore, because I know that you're an asshole, but, like, it's what he deserves, so.
It's what she deserves.
Oh my god.
So he got really upset that, like, his phone was blowing up because of the family member just constantly calling him. And I feel bad, like, obviously, at the end of the day, I shouldn't have done that. I should have known better, but, like, it was honestly, like, something that I didn't think of. Like, I was just trying to be, like, a good nurse and think ahead and, like, you know, like, have them talk. Like, I didn't know that the family member was gonna, like, freaking call him, like, 24/7. But anyway, at the end of the day, he ended up putting a sign on the nurse's station saying, like,
don't give patient families my personal cell phone number, like, blah, blah, blah.
So I was like, oh. But, like, the nurses had my back, honey. Like, they didn't rat on me or anything. It's because, like, I'm, like, chill with the nurses. Like, I know what's up, girl. Like, we're friends. Like, and that's another thing. Make sure that you know who to trust with your nurses and your techs. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to have each other's back. Very glad to leave that place because I was like, yeah, deuces. Like, that guy was bad news. You know, sometimes you're just gonna run into people that just don't like you. That's where I met Sally. So Sally wasn't a registered nurse, but she worked at one of the hospitals in another department. And that's another thing. Like, you're not just going to be in contact with other nurses when you're a nurse, especially when you're in a hospital. Like, you're going to be in contact with case management, physical, occupational therapy, different departments that you guys have to work together to make sure that the patient is doing what they need to do to get discharged and be better and healthier. So Sally, I just don't think she liked me because I was gay. You know what I mean? I was like, all right, bitch, she's gonna be one of those people. She was a lot of people thought that, and they would say it behind her back. I just knew that she just didn't like me because I was out and gay. So that's something I can't control. Like, that's more of a you problem than a me problem. And I noticed that I was the one who was always saying hi. So after, like, the, like, 5th, 6th time that it was me that had to engage the hello, like, I just stopped saying hi. That's something you should notice. When you are the one who's continuously trying to say hello or engaging in a conversation and the other person doesn't do it first anytime, red flag. This person has a problem with you, and keep your eyes peeled, bitch. And I remember having a patient who, once again, had, like, respiratory issues. He was on oxygen, and I remember physical therapy was coming into the room to get him. So when we were getting him ready for therapy, me and the physical therapist, like, for some reason his SATs started going low, below 92%. So anyway, I called respiratory therapist, and so, like, we were, like, working on the patient and making sure that he was gonna be okay. So while we were trying to stabilize the patient, Sally, this bitch, was at the door just, like, barking orders, like, saying all this shit, like, oh, do this and do that and do. I'm like, ugh. So after Sally was done barking orders, she left, and, like, the respiratory therapist looked at me and she was like, who is that? And I was like, I said, I don't know. Because at that point I was like, I don't know this bitch. Like, I'm putting her in the back burner. I didn't want to know her at that point to see how unprofessional and disgusting she was. Like, I don't want to know you, bitch. So I just said, I don't know. And she was like, Sally was wearing basically street clothes. So the respiratory therapist, like, didn't know who she was. So she wasn't wearing scrubs. So you couldn't identify her as a medical professional. She wasn't professional at all, but that's besides the point. The respiratory therapist was like, she's kind of a bitch. And I was like, I didn't say yes or no. I didn't agree. I just kind of, like, did my own thing because, like, I didn't want to engage in that. So she said that, and yeah. I mean, it was kind of good to know that I wasn't the only one who was thinking that, but there you go. It's just really upsetting because it's like, you just sat there and, like, didn't help us out. You were just barking orders, thinking like you were a doctor when you were nothing of the sort, love. Like, oh no. Hey guys, this is Editing George here. I don't know what happened to my phone. I think I forgot to press record, but anyway, we stabilized the patient. The physical therapist ended up taking my patient to the gym so they can do some, work. And I heard freaking Sally talking shit about me in one of my nurse manager's room. And I knew I heard it because the door was open. And it wasn't fully open, like half open. But the thing was, the nurse manager's room is adjacent to that patient's room who was having respiratory trouble. So she was like saying all these things like, oh, why didn't he check O2 stats? Why didn't he, stabilize? All this stuff that I did, and I did that because you were there. You know what I mean? So for her to like say all this shit, like, you'll have a problem. Clearly it's something going on with her that she has to project her anger onto me, because it's like, why are you so engrossed with what I'm doing? You know what I mean? Like, you didn't even help. You were just at the door. Another reason why I didn't like Sally was one of my patients wanted Ensure. She went to go get the Ensure, and then she gave it to me, and she was like, I was like, bitch, like, it's not that difficult to just give it to the patient. She was like one of those people who like didn't want to get her hands dirty. She was someone who didn't want to do the footwork, honey. And I was like, bitch, like, it says a lot about you. Because I've met a lot of people who like may not be floor nurses and might be like in management roles, but they were freaking engaged. They were answering call lights. They were changing patients, but this bitch, nope. I was in one of my patients' room in the morning, and I heard over the loudspeaker, like, rapid response, room 2, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, that's like our unit. In this hospital, like over the loudspeaker, when they say, rapid response, room, blah, 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 anyone from like ICU or ER or ED, like, med surge can come and help to that unit, because like, I guess the more hands the better. So I went to look out in my room, and people were rushing to my coworker's room. So I went to my coworker's room, and like my nurse manager was like, oh, like, we need like vitals, we need an IV started. So I started the IV. Like, there was already nurses in there helping, and I wanted to help too, so I put in an IV. It was a really nice IV. Like it was a 4-arm IV. I think it was a 20 gauge too. Great vein, like perfect. So there was like 2 step-down nurses, and if you don't know anything about the hospital, like, step-down is when the patient is not as critical to be in ICU anymore, so they go to a step-down unit, but they're not as independent or stable to go to a rehab or med-surg unit, so they're in the middle, so they go to a step-down unit. So these step-down nurses came to help, I guess. I had to leave because it was getting a lot of people in there, and like, you don't want to have too many people in a rapid response or a code, because nothing will get done. And I had my patients to take care of, so I left. So anyway, I left, and my coworker who had the patients, she overhears the step-down nurse saying,
can someone get me an IV? Because that IV is not gonna last.
And my coworker looked at her, rolled her eyes, and like put her hands like this, and she left too. Because it's like, why would you say that? Like, there was nothing wrong with the IV I did. The step-down nurse was obviously being shady. She was very like, oh, I could do it better, honey. Like, I'm like, oh God, here we go. And she said it loud enough so everyone in the room can hear it. Like, happy, like, my coworker kind of like stuck up for me and rolled her eyes back at her. Because like, who does that? There was a therapist. Let's call him Tarek. So Tarek was just like annoying as fuck. I'm sorry, he was very annoying. His whole freaking unit and his like coworkers didn't like him. They all thought he was annoying, okay? Like, that just is what it is. I'm not just saying it because he was annoying to me and kind of a douchebag to me, but like, that was like common knowledge. Like, he was like one of those people who would like make jokes and like it wasn't funny, but like he would just spit out jokes, and it was like kind of like people looking at each other like rolling their eyes. Like, it was just like he was doing the most. He was doing too much. He wasn't funny. And he like always like had an issue with me. I don't know what it was, but he would just like throw shady like remarks at me. Like, this one time, like we were coming across the corner, and like he had one of the patients in a wheelchair, and he was like,
Speaking of ugly, there's George.
and I was like, what is wrong with this guy? I personally think that he didn't like me because I was gay, and a lot of people thought he was in the closet, which, like, I mean, I can see how that works because he was very flamboyant, and like, I'm not saying you can't be straight and be flamboyant, like, but like a lot of people in his department like were questioning his sexuality. I personally think that like he couldn't stand that I was out and like could say I'm gay to other people, and like he'll never have that because like he chose to stay in the closet forever. But that's not my problem, that's your problem. And he would constantly like throw shade at me. And I remember the day that he left our facility, he came up to me and he was like,
hey George, like, you probably know this already, but next whatever, like Tuesday is like my last day and I'm leaving.
and I was like, oh, okay, great. And like, I think he just kind of like thought I was gonna be like, oh, congratulations, like you're gonna do great, good luck with everything, like it was so nice to meet you. But bitch, I don't wish you good luck. I really don't care about you. He was just very like annoying and like was giving in the closet vibes, you know? So I was very happy never to see him again. This last person was very similar to Tarek. So let's call him Josh. Josh wasn't liked either. I'm sorry, but like when your freaking department throws a going away party. No, a going away party is when like someone leaves and they're like, oh my god, we're sending you off, but we're gonna miss you so much. Like that's a going away party. His units did a go away party. Like they basically threw a party when he left because no one liked him. Like that says a lot, but he was very annoying as well. I remember the first time I met Josh, I was with my preceptor. It was like my first or second day. The first time I met this asshole, he was like,
oh, who's that?
so I will never forget that. That's the first thing he told my preceptor. He didn't even ask me who I was. She was like, oh, this is George. Like, he is going to be one of the new nurses. Red flag, don't trust this asshole. And I personally think that he didn't like me because I was gay as well. It's the geography, honey. Like, I'm in, like, basically the South, and people are not gonna like you if you don't align with their conservative views. And that's just something I have to deal with, you know? But I'm not gonna change who I am because you're insecure about yourself, you know? And one of the reasons why I didn't like him was because he was talking shit about me to one of my patients. And he said some stuff, but like the one thing I didn't like was he was like,
oh, George is your nurse? Yeah, he's always a day late and $1 short.
And I was like, wow, bitch, you don't know anything about how I work. You don't know anything about me. He said a lot of uncomfortable things around like the female staff. And also just like things like he thinks he's super hilarious. He's just kind of like that guy I was talking about, Tarek. When my preceptor like first was precepting me, she was like, oh, that's Josh. Like he thinks he's funny, but he's really not. And I was like, damn, like, yeah, that's what I thought, but I didn't want to say it. And I've even talked to some of like the people in his department, and they were like,
yeah, he's an asshole. Like, we were so happy when he left.
and I was like, there you go. Like it was good to know like I wasn't the only person who felt that way. I'm not one of those people who are like, oh, I hate you before I meet you. I like you before I meet you. Like I always give everyone a clean slate. Like I read the room, I take notes, and like I observe. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Honey, that is the phrase that I live by as a nurse when it comes to coworkers. Just like talking about this stuff, like reliving all these nursing, like unprofessional moments from people, like it just like irks me because they're still out there and who knows what they're doing to other people, you know? It's like, so happy I don't have to work with like people like that. Well, so happy I don't have to work with them anymore. All right, guys, so I noticed that like my outro of this video, like I didn't like it. So I'm just gonna say that's all I have for you guys today. Let me know if you've ever been bullied as a nurse or like if you work in the hospital, and you've seen it or experienced it, and like how you dealt with it. Stay tuned for the next one. I'll see you later. Bye.